Hey everybody, Tyler here, and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about fountain pens, one of my favorite things to draw with. And you'll see here I've got my fun little rickshaw case loaded with awesome fountain pens and a couple other non-fountain pens, but this is primarily used for fountain pens. And what I'd like to do is introduce you to the world of fountain pens, why I think they're great for artists. I love drawing with them, why it doesn't have to be an expensive hobby to get into. I'm going to show you a bunch of budget-friendly pens and also some awesome inks that I love sketching with. So come with me on this journey, and hopefully by the end, you'll be encouraged to give it a shot. So first, let's answer the question, why fountain pens? Why do I like drawing with them? What's so special about a fountain pen? I'm going to move this aside, and then let's bring in some of the usual suspects. We've got our Micron fine liner. We've got a Zebra click pen. We've got this fancy machined pen here. This is some kind of titanium model. I think it was expensive. Anyway, these are all potentially fine drawing tools, but one of the huge issues with these kinds of tools is that they tend to work better when you are writing vertically. And you guys will remember, hopefully you've seen my other video where I talk about how to hold your tools, right? And we're going to get back into it. So with this one here, you'll see that if I try to come at the paper from an angle, yeah, we're not getting anything. And let's see if we can even zoom in a little further for you guys. Let's see, I'll zoom in. Oh yeah, there we go. We got a nice zoomed in view. And you can see we're not getting a great ink flow at a diagonal. I can get a little bit going, but boy, is it tough. If I go like this though, oh, there we go. Now we're getting some great, I don't even know what I'm writing. But you see the problem here, and this would be the same for this one, which is a oil-based ink. So again, if I come in at an angle, you can see it's very scratchy and has kind of an issue. This one works, I think, a little bit better than this one, which is using, I believe, some kind of a gel refill. But once again, we get a much better result when I'm doing more of a sort of a vertical grip, and that's not great either. And then we've got the trusty Micron, which I think is probably the best alternative. We do get some good results at an angle here, but fine liners are not very expressive. They are called fine liners for a reason, right? They are intended to create a very consistent fine line, which if that's what you're after, that's awesome, right? Like I use these all the time when I need them and they have a purpose, but for general sketching and to get some more expressiveness and have a little bit more fun and get a better grip on what you're doing, fountain pens are really great. I'll just grab this guy here, which is a platinum fountain pen. And don't worry, we're going to go through these in a moment, but I can get a nice angle on this. Let me go ahead and change my mic so I can see a little bit better what I'm doing. There we go. And I can push a little bit harder and get a little bit of a thicker line. I can go thinner with a very light touch. And generally, I have to exert zero pressure from my hand to get this to draw on the paper. And that's something that we're searching for in a good fountain pen ink paper combination. As an artist, we want to have it be a situation where we are able to just draw effortlessly with zero weight on the paper, just dragging it across. I mean, you can see I'm just going to hold it like this and I drag it across and look at that beautiful consistent line. And so that's what we're after. And that's really why I like fountain pens. Now, when I was getting into this, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I thought you had to buy really expensive fountain pens to get a good experience. And it kind of put me off of the whole thing. And this is why I'm making this video, right? So that you don't have to go through that and you won't have a bad experience with the fountain pen and think that all fountain pen experiences will be like that. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic here, which is the nib itself. Talking about nibs, another thing that can be confusing about getting into this hobby is what nib am I supposed to choose? These pens come with different options. What does extra fine mean? What does soft extra fine mean? What does a stub mean? Well, they're all different sizes of nibs in terms of the kind of line that they're going to give you. But the trouble of it is that what one company calls an extra fine might be very different than what another company calls extra fine. Generally, Japanese nibs are going to be finer than European nibs. That is not always 100% consistent, but that is a general rule of thumb. So I find that I like to draw with a bit of a thinner line. So if I end up getting a European fountain pen, I'm going to opt for the finest version of the nib they'll offer, which is usually an extra fine. And with the Japanese nib, extra fine is really nice, but if it is only offered in fine, that also works well for me. Again, because the Japanese nibs tend to be thinner, that one step up is still a good level of precision for me. So when we get into some of the other aspects, like something called a soft nib, what is that talking about? That's where the nib material will allow it to flex and give you a bit of line variation. That can be really great as well. I don't always like to sketch with a tool that has a softer nib, but if you're after a lot of line variation, then you might want to look for a softer nib. There's a lot of options out there, so keep an eye out for that. But what I think is important to consider here is what is available to me without spending a whole ton of money. That's one of the biggest issues people have with fountain pens is that they look and it's like, well, this is going to be $100 and whatever for me to just try one pen. That's insane. And it isn't always feasible for you to go to some location and try a bunch of pens. I mean, that's great if you have that accessible to you, but that's not the reality for most people. Next topic, let's talk about the ink component. We talked about the nibs. Let's talk about the ink. So inks are also an important choice. The tricky aspect is that some inks are wetter than other inks. What does that mean, wetter? It just refers to how well the ink flows out of the pen. And some inks have aspects to them that make them very, very wet, and other ones have aspects that make them very dry. So what are some things to think about there? Well, if you're looking at an ink and the ink has gold metallic flecks in it, for example, that's something that is going to potentially make the ink flow worse. It could clog your pen, and so you've got to be careful. Some of those aspects as well may not really show up with a fine or extra fine nib. For me, I really don't choose inks based on shimmer and sheen properties because I'm drawing with a thinner line and I don't really notice those things a whole lot unless I get something that's really extreme looking, but it's not really a focus for me. So with this being a guide for artists, and I'm going to assume that you're going to be sketching, you're not going to be trying to color in things as much with the fountain pen. I have other tool suggestions for if you want to color things in with fountain pen inks. We're not really going to be focused on shimmer, sheen. Generally, we're just going to look at how do they perform for sketching and how do they look using kind of a finer line. So for ink, think about that. Other aspects that can make it hard to maintain a pen would be a pigment-based ink where you have little tiny particles in the ink that can clog the pen. We're going to actually talk about an ink in my ink suggestions section later that is notoriously difficult because it is a pigment-based ink, but I'm going to recommend it anyway because it's a very special ink. So we'll get to that. But think about some of those aspects with the pigment or the glitter, right? Those things that can be in there that can make it hard to flow. Also think about if the ink is waterproof or not. There's a lot of ink out there that claims to be waterproof and does not hold up to the test. And so I'm going to have one ink, that same ink that I just referred to a moment ago, that is going to be recommended for its waterproof quality. But all the other inks that I use are not waterproof. And those ones I just draw with because I think the colors are awesome. And if you're going to do something like draw with the pen first and then do like a watercolor wash on top, there'll be one ink in the list for you, and the other ones will want to probably reserve those for things that are not going to get wet. So those are some thoughts on inks. Let's talk about paper choice. Fountain pens, they are a little bit more particular about your paper. And that can also be a situation where you might try a pen on the wrong paper and think the fountain pen is bad or the ink is bad. And really it's that the paper wasn't a great choice. What's good about that is that paper is pretty cheap generally, unless you get some really weird, fancy, rare paper. Generally, paper's cheap compared to buying a different pen or buying a new bottle of ink, right? So that might be the first thing to do is if you don't like what's going on, try switching the paper out. Here I have a pretty thick paper. This is a kind of a cream colored paper, and it has, I don't even know what brand of paper this is, but it's a very thick paper and it has a very smooth surface. And this one works well, but there are some legendary papers in the sort of fountain pen community, and you'll hear them mentioned. Rhodia makes great paper for fountain pens. You'll hear about Clairefontaine, and my personal favorite is Tomoe River paper, which is in this sketchbook that I have here. This is a Galen Leather Tomoe River sketchbook. It has 52 GSM paper in it. This is 400 pages. This is a 19 by 25. This must be like is this an A4? Anyway, it's like roughly, letter sized. And Tomoe River paper is great because it does not absorb the ink. It lets the ink sort of sit on the surface. You see a lot of the great properties of the ink, and the ink doesn't bleed through the paper. But the weird thing is that it's very thin paper generally. So it's sort of almost, it defies your expectations. You look at it and you hold it and you think, gosh, this is such thin paper. What is going to happen? But you'll see that, I've got some drawings here, and you'll see that on the reverse side, you can see the drawings because they're, the paper is thin, but the ink isn't actually bleeding through the paper. Maybe just a little bit here and there, but this is also, in addition to fountain pen ink, this is also brush pen ink on here. So I'm really saturating the paper, and it's holding up really well, especially considering the thickness of the paper. So Tomoe River is another great one to consider. So now we get to the moment where I'm going to suggest some pens to get you into this hobby. And again, we're focused on some budget-friendly options here. They're not going to break the bank. Now, they're going to be more expensive than going and buying a Bic Crystal pen, right, or something at the 99-cent store. But in the grand scheme of fountain pens, they're very much on the budget end of things. So the first one is going to be the Platinum Plaisir. So this is an aluminum-bodied pen. They come in different colors. This green-colored one I thought looked really nice. It is pretty lightweight. It is a postable pen. The cap goes on the end very securely. There's no wobble or rattle there. The end piece here, so everything from this point forward is interesting because this shares this section with the even cheaper Platinum Preppy, which I guess could be on this list as well. But I just, the Preppy is, well, I don't have one here, but it's all plastic. It's clear plastic. It has some branding on it and lettering, and it just kind of doesn't give me that fountain pen experience. It feels very disposable, and it just feels a little cheesy to carry around as a nice drawing tool. So for just a little bit more money, you can upgrade, but still have the great Platinum Preppy nib, but just a little bit nicer body. So the Platinum Plaisir, I think, is an awesome option. This one is a situation where you can get this in fine, but if you go and get a Platinum Preppy with an extra fine nib, you can just pop the extra fine nib off that, or rather the entire, this entire section, basically, not just the nib, right? This whole piece here. You basically just grab this off of your Platinum Preppy and you stick it on your Plaisir, and you've got an extra fine version of this pen. So, and the Preppies are really, really cheap. So, it may sound crazy to buy two pens to make one, but this is very, very budget friendly option here. This pen is really great. You saw me doodling with it a little bit here. So we can go back to this sheet here. It's a Japanese nib. So it's super, super fine and really consistent. And what I like about this nib is that there's a bit of feedback. It feels almost pencil-like. It's just a wonderful writing experience. And another thing that I'll mention about this is that it has a special technology in the cap called a slip and seal cap, which is Platinum's special way of creating an airtight seal in the cap to prevent your ink from drying out. This is going to be helpful in all situations, but it's particularly helpful if you end up using an ink that might clog the pen easily or get really nasty if it dries in the nib. So I'm going to recommend this pen to go with a specific ink that I'll mention later. So we'll bring this up later, but this is the first one on the list here, the Platinum Plaisir. And again, with a fine nib, or if you want to get the Platinum Preppy with extra fine and swap the nib, I think those are both awesome options. All right, ready for the next one? I think some people saw this coming, but yeah, here it is, the Lamy Al-Star, which I think is just a bit nicer than the Safari, but there's definitely plenty of Safari fans out there. They come in so many colors, and generally they're pretty reliable. But I think the biggest thing is that they're pretty affordable. So just a good all-arounder. Now, there's going to be one specific thing, though, a critical thing about these pens that you're going to have to wrestle with, and it's the grip. So very postable. It's metal. The All-Star is metal. It's a lightweight aluminum, so the pen is overall very lightweight. This is the Aubergine model in extra fine, and you'll see it has this really cool transparent colored grip section here. I think that's super, super cool. And that's a feature of a lot of the Lamy Al-Stars, is that special colored grip section. But what you will notice is that, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera well enough. Can I get this? Oh boy, this is going to be a tricky one. I don't know if we can get this. Okay, well anyway, the grip is faceted. It is a triangular grip, and so it enforces, you see there's a facet. You can see the facets there when I get them right against the light. It enforces a very particular way that you hold it. Now, for me, I sort of just hold the pen that way anyway, so it actually feels fine for me. I don't have an issue with it. But if you're somebody who likes to kind of like rotate and fiddle with the grip a little bit, then this might drive you crazy. And there are some people who it's just a no-go. They're just like, I can't do the triangle grip, so I can't do these Lamys. So that's worth thinking about. But for me, I still think they're very much worth considering in the budget category. This is an extra fine. So just to kind of compare here, we're talking about, Japanese versus European, right? So if we compare the Plaisir line weight extra fine to the Lamy Al-Star extra fine, you're going to see that there's definitely a noticeable bit of extra thickness to the Lamy's extra fine. But I think that it is still very much fine enough to do most sketching. Only in some very, small, super detailed drawing might you need something finer than this. But for general sketching, I think it's very reasonable, and the price is right. And I love the options. Something kind of fun to mention about these pens is that if you collect them, you can swap different bodies with different grip sections. So you can make your own custom color combinations. I was actually thinking about getting the one with the white metal body and another one that had a red grip. And I thought that'd be cool to do like a white and red Lamy Al-Star. So something to think about there. It's a pretty good pen overall. Pretty reliable nib. There are some people who report occasional nib issues, but I think on average, it's a pretty good pen. Okay, next pen on the list. You saw it a little earlier, so maybe there was some early spoilers on this one, but this is the Pilot Metropolitan. This is the in the animal print series. This is the lizard model. So it has this kind of fun little lizard pattern here. This is a aluminum body as well. It's a little heavier than the Plaisir. In fact, I would be curious to know, do I have my scale here? I do have my scale. So I'm going to compare the weights of these so you can see what we got going on. So this is the Platinum Plaisir at, we got 17 grams for the Plaisir. The Lamy Al-Star, we have at 21 grams. And the Pilot Metropolitan we have at 26 grams. So in the order that we've actually shown them in, they're going up in weight slightly. I like a heavier tool. So the Plaisir for me is borderline. It actually feels too light, to be honest, but it's such a nice pen that I'm fine with it. But this feels a bit light. when a pen gets super light, it can sometimes feel a little bit cheap is part of the issue, but it also feels like it's sort of hard to control it. Like it sort of wants to fly away from you. And I guess that's the case if a pen is also super, super heavy in a way. Hopefully you get what I mean when I say that. So this one is just, I think, borderline in terms of weight. The Metropolitan for me gets into a really nice zone with the weight. I think that's just in a really good spot. Some people find this pen to be too heavy, so the Lamy Al-Star might be a good choice for you, being kind of in between the two. Now this one here is a fine nib, and the Metropolitan only comes in fine. I was not able to find an extra fine version of this, but I believe that there is you can get an extra fine pilot nib from a different pen and swap it in. I haven't tried that myself personally, so I can't recommend that here. But I will say that the fine version of this nib is completely reasonable, and what you'll see is that it's very similar to the Lamy's extra fine. So just a great pen, and flows so well, and I think the feel of this on paper is exquisite. So good. So yeah, it's hard to go wrong with the Pilot Metropolitan. You'll hear it mentioned a lot in a list of pens that are great to try. That's definitely one of them. Okay, we're going down the list here, and the next one I'm going to recommend is the TWSBI Diamond 580. Price a little higher now. This is going to be a piston filler. These pens are generally pretty good. The feel on paper is pretty good. There's a little bit more feedback to this nib than the others we've shown here so far, but I still think it's quite good. Now this is a fine, and this fine you'll see is definitely thicker than anything we've shown so far. And this is the Plaisir. This was the All-Star fine. So this was extra fine, or sorry, this was extra fine. And then this was the pilot fine. Hopefully that's not getting too confusing for you guys. And then this is the TWSBI in fine. And you'll just see that it is starting to get a bit thick on us. So if you're going to get a TWSBI, I would recommend going with the extra fine nib. I think this fine nib is great. I draw with it, but if I could go back in time, I would switch this for the extra fine option. Now, some who are in the fountain pen community might be wondering, why did I recommend this and not the TWSBI Eco, the ever popular Eco? And the reason, even though this is a little bit more expensive and doesn't give you all the cool color options, is because the Eco has some issues currently with plastic cracking on people. It is more common than I would like it to be. I haven't personally had that happen to me, but given that it is happening that much, I just can't recommend it right now. I hope that they improve. I hope that that isn't a continuing issue, but I don't hear that as much from the 580, and it is only just a little bit more expensive, and so I think it's worth the upgrade to the 580 just to avoid that issue. So TWSBI Diamond 580, the next one on the list. We got one more Pilot pen for you. This is the Pilot Kakuno, which is the cheapest pen on the list, the lightest pen on the list. But my gosh, does this nib punch above its weight. Posts great. It's very light. It's just fly away light. My biggest issue with it, it doesn't really feel like, you know, a high quality pen. But then you start drawing with it, and the nib feel is just exquisite. I mean, it definitely is giving me Metropolitan vibes, but this is a Pilot extra fine nib, and it has a pencil-like feel, and it's just a dream. And again, punching way above its weight for its price. This is a no-brainer. If you have no clue where to start with this hobby, get yourself a Pilot Kakuno, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to show you something fun about this. Let's see if we can get this in camera here. Oh, can you see it? There we go. There we go. Look at the little happy face on the nib. It's so fun. They're playing with that design there. A lot of people just love Kakuno for those sort of quirky details. And I do as well. So that's the Pilot Kakuno, another great one on the list. We're almost done, guys. Thanks for sticking with me. We're going to get to the inks in just a moment. All of the next ones I'm going to show you, we're not going to go one at a time. I'm just going to show you a collection because they're all Hongdian pens. Hongdian is a Chinese manufacturer, and they've really been upping their game over the years, and it's really quite incredible what they're able to achieve for the price point. All of these pens have metal bodies, and they're all going to be a heavier feel than anything we've looked at so far. But know that the quality control on Hongdian nibs is going to be lower than the things like the Platinum and the Pilot nibs. They're really quite good, but there's a little bit more variance from one nib to the next than I would like. So I want to just give that as a caution that I might have a version of this pen that I think is great, and you might get the same pen and you might not have a great experience. So again, the price point being low, I feel like it doesn't feel too bad if you end up getting one, it doesn't work out, you return it, maybe you have to get a different one or something. But I'm just throwing that out there that even within from one pen model to another within Hongdian's catalog, an extra fine nib might be different. Their extra fine is just kind of all over the place. So the ones I'm going to show you here are the few that I found worked really well, and I'm excluding some of the ones that I got that didn't work so well. They're different models than the ones I'm showing you, okay? So the first one is the most cost-effective, which is the Hongdian Black Forest. You can get this also in other colors. There's a dark blue one that's just called the Dark Blue Forest, surprise, and it posts well. I think it's a great weight. The nib fineness is quite good. The flow is good. Currently, I have this inked with a light blue ink, sort of like a non-photo blue pencil. If you're somebody who, well, we'll get into that with the inks. I don't want to get ahead of myself. This pen is nice. It's also the cheapest of all of the Hongdian pens I'm going to recommend. So if you're kind of curious about this brand, this is a good place to start. And I would definitely recommend extra fine for any Hongdian pens you're going to buy if you're intending to do them for art purposes, or sketching, I should say. I mean, I guess there's reasons you would get maybe like a broad or a stub nib if you're doing some kind of like calligraphic, typography elements in your art, or maybe you want to put some big fat outlines. Again, I don't know that I would recommend a fountain pen for some of those things, but I just want to mention that it's not that extra fine nibs are the only nibs that can be valuable for artists when it comes to fountain pens, but it's a better place to start. And then I think once you kind of get into it, then you can explore beyond that and think, okay, what happens if I try a broad nib or something like that? So that's the first Hongdian pen, the Black Forest. All right, the next Hongdian pen is going to be the Hongdian 1866. This is labeled as having an extra fine soft nib. Let's see if we can get a good shot of this thing here. This is a really cool, like dark metal. This is going to be a common theme you're going to see on most of the pens I'm showing you. Metal grip, metal end, metal cap. This pen posts, but I don't like it posted. It feels very back heavy. And a wood body. Let's shift this down. So we can see line thickness, pretty good there, right? Like it's got a nice fine line, very consistent. And again, an extra fine. A little more expensive, definitely a little bit more heavy, but I thought this one worked out quite well. The next one is going to be a pair because they're basically the same pen, just in different colors. And that's these two beauties right here. These are the Hongdian N11, both extra fine soft nibs, and the geometric variant on both of these, they are calling the Lozenge geometric design. There's various designs. Pick the one you think looks good. I'd imagine that the feel and the nib and everything is going to be pretty much the same on all of them, but I thought this particular pattern looked really cool, and it has a cool feel in the hand. This is actually kind of a matte finish, and it just feels good. I really like it. The weight is great. They write really well, and this one, the color is called, what is the color of it? This is called grass green, and this one is called peacock blue. These are both great. Let's just do a quick little line sample here. Neither of those pens post very well, so there is that to consider, but I'm generally not a pen poster anyway. Consistent. You can do a little comparison in terms of line, but you'll see they write pretty well. We're getting to the end here. I've just got a couple more. So this is the Hongdian D1 Piston fountain pen with an extra fine soft nib. This is the jet black hollow skeleton version. There's a kind of a glossy, let's see if we can get some good focus on this. There's a glossy finish on the outside, glossy dark metal finish with a clear resin on the inside. So whatever ink you put in here, you'll be able to see it if you put some light behind it. And then it's a screw cap. And we've got the same nib as what was on the last two pens that I showed you. Really like this pen. This writes really well. And got a couple skips here. I've had this pen. I haven't written with this pen in a little bit. And that's always something that you'll have to contend with most pens. But this actually is kind of maybe highlighting how these Chinese pens, they're just slightly more finicky than the Japanese pens I've mentioned. But I don't want you to see that and be put off by this. If I were to just sort of noodle with that pen for, 30 seconds or something, we'd have a pretty good consistent flow. And again, I haven't written with that pen for a little bit. The next one is the Hongdian Qin Dynasty. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's Qin. You guys let me know. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. But this pen is the heaviest of all the pens I've shown so far. It's also probably one of the more expensive, but it's a beauty. It writes really well. It's maybe a little bit on the thicker side. You guys hopefully can see what I'm writing here. But this one, again, if I leave it for a while, it might get a little bit dry. But after a few seconds, it starts right back up again. So this is another great pen. And then we'll go with one more here. And this is the Hongdian 6013 pure black metal fountain pen with a soft, extra fine nib. By the way, that last pen was also an extra fine nib. I think I forgot to mention that. But now this one here is interesting because this one is best posted. It's a very short body, and the cap actually posts very deeply onto the pen. It has an interesting sort of rubberized grip to it. Don't worry, it didn't have any like weird toxic rubber smells to it. It was very neutral, very smell sensitive. So if you're somebody like that, don't worry about this grip here or this body section. The grip is metal, and the interesting thing is that the nib size on this is smaller than some of the other ones we've been looking at. The size of this nib is the same as the one on the Black Forest pen. So it's sort of like a chunkier pen body, but with a slimmer nib. And I actually really like this pen. I think it's great. It has a good ergonomic feel. If you're somebody who likes a pen that feels a little bit back heavy, this is a good option for you. And I don't know, this one might actually need, I think I'm out of ink on this pen. Yeah, I'll have to re-ink this one. But anyway, this had, I think I had Red Dragon in this. But there we go, folks. That's a rundown of all of the budget fountain pens that I recommend. And now it's time for some ink recommendations. Now, just to get this out of the way, let's start with the black ink that I recommend because everybody needs a good black ink, right? And this is the one that I was referring to earlier. This is Platinum Carbon Black Ink. Legendary. If you're an artist who's been using fountain pens for a while, you'll know about this ink. It's a little bit pricey, but it is it's a very dark ink. It's a very permanent ink, meaning that you can ink something and then you can do a watercolor on top and that ink isn't going anywhere. I mean, give it like, 15, 30 seconds to dry, but it is truly waterproof. which is a claim that a lot of other inks just fail at when put to the test. But the challenge with this ink is that it is a pigment-based ink, and if it dries in your pen, it's going to get clogged, and it's a finicky ink. So if you're going to be using this ink, if you're going to be doing stuff where you're going to be inking and then watercoloring on top, I recommend using this ink in Platinum's pens that feature the slip and seal cap, because those caps are designed to keep an airtight seal, and you're not going to have as many issues with the carbon black ink drying up on you. I have a really expensive fountain pen. It's a Pilot Namiki Falcon, and I love the pen, but I put carbon ink in it, and it just ends up clogging for me after a week. It's just too much trouble. So I'm just saving you the trouble, and I'm saying, you know, this is a great ink. It's the black ink I recommend, but try pairing it with Platinum pens. So remember, this is the Procyon, this is the Plaisir that I mentioned earlier, or the Preppy. Those are both great options. And you can get carbon ink also in cartridges. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to mess with filling things out of a bottle, then there's that option for you as well. That's the recommendation I've got for you for best black ink for artists. Now we're going to have some fun, and we're going to go through a little rainbow of colors. None of these are going to be waterproof, but this is just inks that I think look really cool on the page. They're very fun to draw with. You can do like a themed page where maybe you do, I don't know, a page of like sea creatures and you use a blue ink, or you do a bunch of forest creatures and it's like green ink, right? I think it's just kind of fun. And yeah, you know the importance of drawing all the time, drawing frequently. So if there's little things we can do to make drawing more enjoyable, then I think that's awesome. So first up in our little rainbow of best inks to draw with, Pilot Yamabudo. Just a great color. It's a fun, saturated, reddish purple, very vibrant. I think you could describe it as a true magenta. And it's well behaved, so meaning that it flows well, and it's just a joy. It's just a really, really beautiful looking ink. So Pilot Yamabudo, and I'll go ahead and like try to leave these in frame so we'll have a little lineup. Next one on the list, Diamine Ancient Copper. This is a rich reddish brown. It gives the impression of almost a metallic quality, even though there really isn't much sheen going on, especially if we're talking about doing art with a fine line, but it's a really nice color. When I'm drawing with this, you almost get sort of like a Da Vinci sketchbook kind of vibe with this kind of like a rusty tone. So definitely a fan of this one. What green do I recommend? Pure Pen's Glens of Antrim. This is a true green. It doesn't lean blue or yellow. It's a really nice saturated green. It just feels good. It's a feel-good green. I don't know. It's very hard to describe, but you know, hopefully the camera is capturing it well. I have a pretty neutral light on the table here. It's just very slightly warm, so it might be making these colors just look a little bit warmer than they are in person. But you know, I'm looking down at the table and I'm looking up at what the camera is capturing, and to me, to my eyes, those look pretty accurate. They might look a little brighter on camera than they are in person, but hopefully these give you a good sense of what color you would get if you were to try this in person. But I really love Glens of Antrim for a green choice. Next up, let's look at a purple. Diamine Imperial Purple. You're going to see Diamine one more time on this list because Diamine just makes a whole bunch of awesome colors. They have so many, and yeah, I'm a fan. But Imperial Purple for me is it's just a really nice shade of purple. It's super saturated. It has just a slight warm tone to it, and it flows really well, generally pretty well behaved. So Diamine Imperial Purple is my choice for a purple ink. For a brown ink, we're going to go with J. Herbin La Dete. This is has a lot of interesting shading going on, and you won't notice this as much with a fine line, but if you throw this into a brush pen, it looks really, really nice. And it has sort of a mellow yellow tint to it. You're kind of seeing it here compared to Ancient Copper, how it has a sort of a yellow quality. And this, again, is going to give you, I think, some of that like old world, Da Vinci sketchbook sort of vibes, if you like that. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that one. It's definitely currently my favorite brown ink to draw with. How about a true red ink? Diamine Red Dragon. Actually, we've got one more Diamine too. Boy, they're really dominating the list. Red Dragon, I think, is the best red ink. I know there's a lot of great red inks out there, but Red Dragon does it for me. It's just a super saturated, beautiful red. So yeah, if you're looking for a red ink, try Red Dragon. What about blue inks? Diamine Blue Velvet. Camera is really capturing that well. It's so vibrant. It's so deep. But it doesn't give me like Bic blue vibes, which sorry if you're a fan of like, Bic pens and the blue ink, but I don't like that color of blue. It reminds me of like, I don't know, high school book reports or like, teacher corrections or filling in forms or something. Like I don't like that for my art. I want the art to have a little more of a fun vibe. So I really like Blue Velvet. And I think that one's probably the last. Yeah, it's the last Diamine on the list because we've only got two more. And the last two are very similar in color. So I couldn't really choose because I like them both a lot. So I'm just going to show both of them here. We've got, I guess I'll leave this over to the side. Oh, we can't see that with my face there, can we? Okay. So we'll do this. And the last two are J. Herbin Emerald de Chivor and Kuiko Blue Paradise Blue. Paradise Blue, definitely lighter and a little less green than Emerald de Chivor, but they're both these sort of like tealy blue colors, and I love them both. They're both so awesome. They're so fun to draw with. If you want something a little lighter, Paradise Blue is great. A little darker, a little greener, go with Emerald de Chivor. Now, Chivor has some glitter in it, has some gold flecks in it. I haven't had any issues with flow with that ink yet, but it's something to just be aware of, that it might be something that's a little bit more finicky, but it's such an awesome color. It has to be on the list. So those are all the colors that I think are really fun to draw with. There's going to be one honorable mention here, and that is Colorverse Clear Cyan. If you're doing stuff and you want it to look like non-photo blue pencil like animators do, then this is the ink for you. This is the closest I could find. And so if you want to have that underdrawing in that non-photo blue and then maybe do a pass on top with black or some other medium, this is a great option. All right, so there's the inks. We talked about the best fountain pens. I think the only thing we have left to do is end the video with a little doodle. Okay, we're going to do a little night guy here. Just start with make sure we get this in frame, focus. Just pulled up some random guy on Pinterest. Looks like a pretty cool, maybe like a shot from a movie, or maybe he's like a kind of historical reenactment fellow. Who knows? But I love just taking a look at random images on Pinterest to get inspired. So typically I'll do just a little pencil doodle here to get some general features plopped in before I go about inking the image there. All right, and then we'll go ahead and use the pile of Kakuno here because I think is such a good representation of the theme of the video, which is great pens on a budget for artists. Now he's got a big thing of chainmail on, and I don't want to draw all kinds of chain links, so we'll just do a couple little textural implications here. You'll have to use your imagination on those chain links. And then he has his fancy hat. Make the hat a little smaller. I think it got a little bit big in the pencil doodle. Let's see, anything else? We can give him a little extra furrowing to his brow there. Normally I don't worry about erasing too much of the sketch because I think it kind of creates a little fun underdrawing texture aspect. But yeah, which is a quick little doodle there with the Pilot Kakuno fountain pen. And overall, I feel like we've covered a lot of good ground. I'm going to try to cut this video so that it is not super long, but there's a lot of information in here, so I'm going to make sure to put some chapters in for you guys. If you found the video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. As a new channel, it's so critical that I get a little bit of momentum going, and so that I can keep trying to bring you some helpful videos, some interesting content, because who knows what I could bring to the channel in the future. So I appreciate all your support, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody.